Good evening, or afternoon, or whenever you're watching this. Uh, this uh, on this session, I have the pleasure of speaking to Claudia Marulanda, who's an artist and also now someone who uses her art for the empowerment of other women and people, which is really cool. But first, I'm going to give you just a brief thing about what Masterwork Foundation and what we do. Our We were founded, oh, good grief, in 2 years it'll be 70 years ago, and the I joined not as long after that as I would like to admit to. Um, I actually sang in my first concert sponsored by the Masterwork Foundation in 1962, which is too far back there. But anyway, the but I'm on the board and I've been there since then. But Masterworks' current, um, what we do is we are concerned with the process of people who are in the arts as a scholastic, in training, and how do you make the transition to professional? And so our primary thing, we every year give a grant of $10,000 to a young artist who's in the process of making that transition. And we've made it very difficult for ourselves because we want to do for a different art area each year. And so we've done opera singers, we've done organists, and this year we're actually doing a dance company. So interesting. But Masterwork also sponsors free web dance lessons and also these webcasts called A Life in the Arts. So again, my guest this evening is Claudia Marulanda, and I, we've invited her here to share her work, both her work on paper and her work with people. So good evening and welcome. We met in a business networking context a few months ago, and I don't know, I just immediately was taken by your work, and it's uh, it's sexy and fun and um, also kind of, I mean, and just worth looking into. I particularly love the way that you build text into the hair. So um, we should show an example or two of what I'm talking about here. But anyway, so do you have something you can put up there to show us?
Sure.
I'll let me make sure you can do that here. You're now the co-host, so you're it.
Okay. So do you want me to just say a little bit about me or which way do we go?
Oh, yeah, start out. Well, all right, let's do this in a more formal fashion. Um, Lots of people train for a career in the graphic arts, and not all of them get to actually have careers in doing so. So, what was your formal training, and what's the path that have led you to your current work?
So yeah, there's been a couple of
Of course,
changes in that past.
of course.
So I I did go to art school, but I went to graphic design and
Hmm.
advertisement. So well, initially I wanted to be a fashion designer and I never showed up to my appointment at my interview at FIT. So that dream was
Uh,
killed right there. So I ended up becoming a graphic designer. So I was in the publishing industry for about 15 years. But then I hit what I call an emotional rock bottom. I was in a very, let's just call it kind of like a depressive state. A lot of things were happening in my life, and I wasn't fully satisfied with my work. So during that period, I left my career. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but what happened is that, and I always say the pain drove me to art because in the midst of that pain, one day I was like, let's just take out my color pencils, my all my drawing stuff, which I hadn't used in years, and then I started drawing.
Mm,
So that happened about 10 years ago, and that's what has been building slowly. It took about 10 years basically to start creating art, just I noticed that I was feeling good, that I wasn't in pain, that I was comfortable. And then one thing led to another. Then I was like, oh, let me take a portrait painting class because I want to learn how to paint faces. And then I realized that I did have a skill in it.
hmm
And one of the things that when you said about the words in the hair, since I was in a lot of emotional pain, I ended up using art as a tool to reflect on my emotions, on how I was feeling, on what I wanted to feel. So I don't know about you, but I know many women and many people, they like quotes.
hmm
So as I was looking at quotes and inspirational words, somehow those words, I ended up expressing those words in the hair of my illustrations.
mm.
So it became kind of like a thing. Like if I wanted to feel tenacious, then I just wrote out tenacious and I played with that. So it became my way of like engaging in that feeling. So that's how I ended up in art. It wasn't something that I chose. It just kind of came to me.
It chose you.
Yeah, it shows me.
The oh, I forget the author that I remember reading in the notes of actually an author of novels for young people that having received the 42nd rejection slip for a novel that she had written, she just said, "Obviously, I'm not a writer. This is not working." And then she realized that the only thing she could think of to do about it was to go write about it. So she decided she must be a writer. That book won the Newbery Award, incidentally, for the best young
Oh,
person's
wow.
novel of that year. But it's called A Wrinkle in Time. Uh,
I love that
Probably,
title.
yeah. But at any rate, the uh, so you didn't, yeah. So this is it's not as unusual a path as all that because lots of people who actually in the lives that we've talked about on the 20 plus episodes of this, uh, most of the paths to whatever the final life was were not like just simple straight roads. There there's always things along the way. So I don't know, can you show us?
Sure. So
Let's see something yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
can share.
go one by one. So I'm gonna start sharing. This is my initial one that I
Mm,
ended up adding the words. I wanted to feel better. So I started adding words of, encourage yourself, inspiration, watch your thoughts where they become your words, and happiness. So that's how I kind of like started just building it up.
hmm
I'm just gonna go back and forth.
It's okay.
So
this is if you haven't noticed, this is not a terribly formally structured.
no, that's fine.
More
So
interested
it
in what in the people.
yeah, so it was so
Mm,
this is another style. So I started this is kind of like my early work. This one actually was very interesting because I can be very uptight with my work, like very like into the lines, and I'll show you something different. So this one I was kind of like learning to loosen up, to just be a little more loose with my art because I know in life and in art it's like there's that we do things the same way. So there's no difference. I'm gonna show you then. This is my, so I have three styles, the black and whites, which I'm gonna show you another one. The one that I showed you before, which is more like, I call it more pop art. And this is the semi-realistic. This one has the words in the hair.
hmm
It says, be the change you want to see in the world, because when I realized that, if I wanted my life to change, I had to be that change.
hmm
So I was inspired by that, and I just added the words in there. It's not extremely obvious, but it's just part of the hair, so it's not meant to be obvious. So this is my other style that is a little more realistic. And then I have a love for curly hair.
hmm
And then this one as well, yeah. You see this one.
Hmm.
This one has a couple of words in there, so you can't really see it. But this was inspired by an actress that I like, the Colombian actress.
Mm.
So that's kind of the style. So along with that, I'm going to show you two. I'm just going to have to go one by one. Two of my recent ones. So this one also has the words, and it says, "I am what I choose to become." And this is the second part of a quote from Carl Jung. And I,
Hmm.
I don't remember the full quote right now, but it's about, we're not defined by our past, but we are defined by who we choose to become. So that was important to me. So every time something becomes important in my life, like I want to be able to express it in the art. And one of the things that I'm working on right now is, since I facilitate workshops, I don't have as much time to engage in my art. So I'm doing a little more of the black and whites. And this one I did recently. I'm working on creating the words a little more readable. So this one says, "I am worthy, loved, I am creative, I am divine." So this is what I'm going to be doing more of, because one of the things that I struggle with is feeling worthy of the things that I'm receiving, of the things that I'm doing. So it's a way to not only inspire myself, but inspire other women as well. So that's, let me see if I have anything else. And then I'm going to show you one more,
Okay.
because I do the commission portraits. I don't know if you've seen this one. So
Yes.
the,
No, I have, but yes. Oh, that's
yeah.
fun.
Oh, I love doing this one because she was like, "I just want a black and white with red lips." I was like,
Okay.
okay. So I love that. And of course she put quotes and words that matter to her. She added her
Mm.
kids' names. So this is just a reminder of who she is and the things that she values, and she gets to have this, at her home. Well, she has it in her office.
Well, the other,
And
this has kind of some of both of the styles from the earlier work too, because it's got the softer
yeah,
representation of the hair, which I've been watching come as we went through the different pieces. But then there's still that hard-edged, well, the glasses in particular, and
yeah.
but the words are more. They're part of the hair rather than it's much softer and less hard-edged, and so that's anyway.
Yeah, I
You're growing and changing, and that's what there is to do.
yeah, I think that's the beauty of art too, because there are things that I like that I did before. Let's say, you know what? I'm gonna look for it so I can give you an idea. Okay, I got it right here. So when I started doing my art, I started doing it because of pain. So one of the things that I realized is that I was putting myself in that meditative space that I needed to relax and
Mm,
quiet down. So I used to do all these little lines, and I have one that I did with curls that is like, I actually want to do like another version of this because this is like very early work. But now the person that I am now just doesn't have the patience for all these little lines. And one of the things that I do is that I read a lot about trauma and art because that's something that interests me because it related to my life, and understanding like what is it about art that people say, it saved my life. I have always said that art is my medicine because when I was depressed, it was like that daily dose that I needed every day. I needed to go and do a little bit of art so I could just not be miserable.
mm.
So that, and then the way it works in the brain, I need to learn how to describe it, but it's just beautiful how it works with you. So at the time I needed to focus fully on those little lines. Now I can, I just don't have the patience. So now I'm a little more loose. I'm a little more free about that. And and it will continue to change depending on the person that I am.
Uh, it will. Yeah. Okay. So now you've moved past just creating, beautiful things.
Mhm.
An artist friend of mine, oh, good grief, 50 some years ago, said to me that artists are the most materialistic people there are because they all think that they're spiritual and all this. And he says, no, you make things. That's material. And, uh,
Okay.
and okay, you make paintings, you make sculptures, you make whatever. And there's nothing more physical than that. But the thing you've moved past just doing that to actually working with other people and helping them through art uh,
Mhm.
get at what are issues for themselves. And so, how did that happen?
It happened because when I started engaging in art, so I went through a transformation phase and it lasted a couple of years. I started doing opening up. One of the things that art helped me with was to express myself more, to really dig in. That's why art is like a form for self-discovery. So I realized that I there were certain things that I needed to work and rework, and I ended up uncovering past trauma.
Mm.
So that past trauma came back, and so I feel like I need to sneeze. It's not coming out. So um, I realized that art helped me with that. Years later, after I was reading the books, after I was doing the work, I was like, oh, this is how art helped me. And I didn't know at the time, of course. So I want to be able to bring that to women, because we as artists, we do art for different reasons. And my reason to help the women is to actually engage intentionally in the art, to be more conscious about what they're doing, because when we're in that creative state, that flow state is that meditative state, so we can actually connect to ourselves at a deeper level, and listen to what that inner self is saying.
Mhm.
So that's my purpose, to help women, give them a space to connect. We talk about emotions, how our emotions affect them, because I feel that the more I became aware of my emotions, how to process my emotions, how to handle them, I was able to feel better and not be, let's say, if something bad happened to me, because we're always going to have challenges, right? So if something bad happens to me, instead of like being in that space of negativity, let's just say for 6 months, 3 months, whatever, if I know how to process it, I can cut down that space and move to a better place. So
Mhm.
that's my purpose, to help women just have joy and be able to process their emotions and manage them, so they can have better lives.
So, I think on your website there
Mhm.
was a piece of video about except I don't know. Well, what I'm trying to have here for our viewers is how do we give them a sense of what it's like to be in one of your seminars or your workshops. Um,
I can show you a little bit of what I have here, a PDF file.
okay, sure.
Let me see. So I have, so I do this work in two ways. One, I have like coloring workshops, and I call them conscious coloring, because they're designed to help women who are overwhelmed, stressed. So we use color in a very specific way. And if you see on the top image, she has like a color chart.
Hmm.
So colors, they represent emotions. Like if we feel happy, usually happiness relate to yellow. So I give them prompts, I guide them through prompts to reflect on emotions, to learn whatever we talk about. And then they have to find those uplifting emotions, because the whole idea is to uplift women, not take them back to a place of pain. So they get to answer the prompts according to the emotions they want to feel, and then those emotions are represented by color. So each of these colorings is not just colors they did because of fun, it was because it related to emotions they want to engage in.
Hmm.
I wish I had a quote, but I don't have one. And then this one is more of like the program that I do. So this is called Uncover the Goddess Within, Future Self Portrait. We go a little deeper into it. We also use the color uh, idea of colors representing emotions, but we also use affirmations. We use words, and this is 7 weeks. So this is about looking at that inner self-image. How do we see ourselves? What has led us to be where we are, and how we want to envision our future self. That's why it's called Future Self Portrait. So I love what they come up. I love what they create, the words and the meaning that it has for them. And then they get to have a reminder of who they want to be and how they want to see themselves. So I love, the ability of giving this to women and making this space available for them, because I feel like we're always too busy running around. Like I'm like that right now, like too many
I know.
things. And then, but we need that creative space because it's just part of our nature just to engage in our creativity. And of course, not everyone's an artist, but we all engage in creativity in different ways.
Well, it looks like the you give them like a starting point in those portraits, so that they can't get off the hook and say, I don't know how to draw.
It's funny because the ones that have said they don't know how to draw it, they have done the best work. I mean, I give
Oh,
them a template, but it's
yeah.
a work of, when it's a conceptual portrait. So it's about the thoughts, the ideas, the symbols, and it just starts coming together, and it just comes out beautiful. So yeah, you don't have to be an artist to do that. And
Well,
it's
I
crazy enough.
I noticed the one woman had taken half of the face and turned it into I think a tiger.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put her back. So
Yeah, they.
let me see if I can put it closer. Yeah, it's very interesting because someone had told her she had the eye of the tiger. So she kept like a little quote next to her computer. So
Hmm.
when she did this project, she was able to visually, represent that visually. So she added that into her project. And of course, she added all the quotes relating to the things that she loves. And like here she says she's an animal lover. So yeah, so it's really interesting that she did that. I i i was pretty amazed. That I love that because I love seeing how people engage in it and they find meaning, because that's the whole point. It has to be meaningful to them because they're going to hang it and it's going to be there for them to remind them of the things they want to be reminded of.
Mm. Well, it really sounds like well, important work, not just you know, fun and creative, but
Oh
uh
yeah, no, this is
yeah, and
my
so
work is about looking within, because that's what I realized when I started getting to know who Claudia was, like inside, like what her feelings, what she wanted, how, I don't know, like that deeper self, like having that connection. I realized that that's what allowed me to have joy. So I want to be able to help women find that and start connecting to that, because it's a process. So it's not like a 1 day thing.
no. The no, if I think Woody Allen in the movie Sleeper, who has been in, uh, he was put under for a minor surgery and it went wrong, so they put him in the freezer and they wake him up 300 years later and he says, "Oh, you know, I haven't seen my analyst in 300 years. He was a strict Freudian. I'd almost be cured by now." Exactly. No, but and there's no there to get to. It's always that, because life isn't going to, you know, let you cruise. Uh,
No, no. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
no. So anyway, but thank you for sharing your work and for sharing this important work you're doing with other people. And also, I'm I love having these conversations because there's 1,000 different ways to have a life in the arts. And and anyway, thank you very much for sharing you and your wonderful work with us this evening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for making this space for, everyone to share a little bit of their stories. I think this is
Yeah.
really important.
Okay.